Hey Stampers, Kim from stampingandperfection.com. Thank you so much for joining me in my craft room today. I wanted to share with you that I got a nice little Happy Mail surprise in my mailbox the other day. I opened up the mailbox on Thursday, and inside I found this bright yellow envelope that contained a thank you note from Altenew, and it also included the stamp set. The thank you note is signed by everything at Altenew. And it says it's got coupon codes. It's covered in coupon codes on the back that I'll be using in the next couple of months. And it included this Billowing Blossom stamp set as a free gift to thank us for being customers this year, to thank us for our support. I thought that was wonderful. This is the second free stamp set I got from Altenew this year. I got a personalized stamp set for their 4th anniversary as a thank you gift for supporting them as well. So I really appreciate that. Thank you, Altenew. And since I do really love Altenew stamp sets, I have these little stamp sets for Christmas that I've been purchasing every time I see them on sale. And I love these. These are all less than $5. The one in my hand, the Sweet Seasons, is actually less than $3. Those are complete stamp sets you can make whole projects out of. I'm going to pair them with some tag dies from my favorite things, and I pulled out 3 just to show you. This is the one I'm going to use. This is the Stitch Traditional tag. I'm going to use this one. I like that I have a lot of choices of different sizes, and that's going to work for the project I want to do today. I also have that wine tag, and then the one in my hand is called a Build-A-Tag kit, and you can see it's got all kinds of toppers, 3 different tag shapes, some little embellishments you can add. Like every Stampin' Stash should have a tag builder set like this, and I also think every stash should have a traditional tag set. I especially like this one because it's got the stitch detail on the edge, which I think gives you a nice finished edge. So that's the one I'm going to use today. So I'm going to start with, you can see I have a bunch of these little stamp sets because I love them. I can make a whole project from a little stamp set. And I'm going to start with the Pine Tree one. Now, this is actually a double layered stamp set with a sentiment, and I'm going to use a couple of Altenew's new green inks, and I'm going to add my snowbanks. Instead of using inks for my snowbanks, I'm going to use that Nuvo Embellishment Mousse. So I'm just going to pull out the largest tag. Now, you could actually trace around the outside of that tag with a pencil if you wanted to. I just kind of want to see the height of that tag compared to the trees. I want to create a little winter scene, like a little forest winter scene with some snowbanks. It's one of my favorite things to do at Christmas time. And I'm just going to move it out of the way. I'm just eyeballing it. I didn't trace it. I'm just going to go with it. And I'm pulling out my Catherine Pooler clear blocks that I love, and I'm using the solid stamp with the lighter of the 2 colors I've selected. This is actually called Shadow Creek, and you can see that I'm stamping it once, and then I'm doing a second generation or stamp off technique to give the illusion of more trees in the background. I'm just going to do that a couple of times. Now I'm going to add the top layer with that mountain pine. This is my darker ink. So the lighter ink is the solid bottom stamp, and then your darker ink is for that top layer. This is my favorite color, this mountain pine. I love this set of greens that they just came out with, and the set of chocolates they just came out with. So I'm going to now do the stamp off technique and stamp that top layer on that background tree. You could actually, if instead you wanted to give the illusion of snow, instead of using green ink, go ahead and use your white craft ink, and it'll make it look like snow. Now this is another one of the little stamps that they have, and it's called Snowing. I use this a lot, and don't be alarmed by the size of that stamp. It's not a huge snowfall, but you can stamp that multiple times. Like you could make a whole scrapbook page with that particular stamp, because it's random dots and random sizes, and you can just stamp around and create a whole snowy page if you wanted to. So I'm going to ink that up with my Versamark, and I've pulled out my white embossing powder, And I'm just going to stamp this a couple of times. I'll ink it up again, I'll stamp it again. I don't need that to go very high above those trees because remember, I'm going to be cutting that with the tag. So the tag is either going to cut off some of the tops of the trees or some of the bottom of the trees. It doesn't really make any difference. So now I'm just going to add my embossing powder, and I have to say that since I poured all my white embossing powder into this big container, I use it so much more than I did when it was in the little container. It's just so much easier to deal with and so much neater. So I pulled out my 3M Post-it tape, and I'm just like cutting snowbanks. Like there's no real method here. I'm just cutting curves and sort of layering them on top of each other. And I'll throw it out after I'm done with this project. I love this 3M Post-it tape. It's really good for this project. So now here's the Nuvo Embellishment Mousse. And I often use the jumbo daubers from scrapbook.com, but I really love putting it on with the blenders. And this is powder blue. This is powder blue. And what I love about doing my snowbanks with this stuff lately, I think you should always use like a soft blue or a soft gray or a soft lavender for your hint of snowbanks. But I'm just blending this on with the foam from my Ranger blending tool in this hill form. I love this because this embellishment mousse has a metallic sheen, so it really gives you some shine. Now I am going right over the top of those trees. I might have done better by making a quick mask to put over the trees, but I'll be putting some mother of pearl embellishment mousse over the top of the whole thing so the entire thing has some shine, and it'll also then help that snowfall actually stand out. Excuse me. Now this is a teal color, and I have not used this color yet, so I'm just opening this for the first time. I'm not kidding, I fell in love with this embellishment mousse from Nuvo and bought a bunch of colors. Like, it went on sale. I always wait for sales or good coupons, and I bought a few different colors. Like, shoo, this stuff is pretty. So this was a little liquidy when I opened it up, and that's the first time that's ever happened. So I just took my palette knife and mixed it in again. It's very creamy, and this was actually just a little liquidy. So I just mixed it up and it worked fine. So I'm just blending that over my snowfall, and you could mix several colors together for your sky. I thought this was so pretty. I just left it like this. I didn't want to add any more colors. I know more colors will make it more realistic, but you can make it darker in one area and lighter in another. I'm just taking my rag and just like buffing it, and you know, just going over the top of it. Like, that's actually my microfiber cloth, by the way. And I will get rid of, I have a line there from the snowbank. I wasn't being very careful. And I'm just going to try stamping over this again, and I'm going to tell you, this did not work. This is dye ink, and it didn't really stamp well on top of the embossing mousse. I did try heat setting it, and it just didn't really work. I think you need a more permanent ink over the top of that, or you need to let it dry a little bit, like maybe if I'd given it some time to dry. So that didn't work great for me, but I still didn't hate it. So I did blot it a little bit before I pulled out my mother of pearl, just to make sure that I didn't have any wet ink on the top. And you can see that mother of pearl gives you a little like vanilla color on your card, but I love the sheen. Like, I just really love the sheen of this. And I almost feel like this really kind of gives it a super snowy look. And this is a super pretty tag when it's all done. So I pull out a couple different sizes. I'm definitely going with that larger size. And I'm just going to cut this up a little bit and use my, oops, I actually went with the medium size, didn't I? I am going to cut this up a little bit and use this with my mini blossom die cutter from Altenew. And I'm just pulling my powder blue back out just to smooth down that line. For some reason I just didn't do a good job getting rid of it. So I'm just going to like put a little bit more powder blue over it to get to like soften the harsh line that I have. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut this with my die cut machine. So now it's all done, and I've got that beautiful stitch detail around the edge, and I feel like the only thing I need now is a sentiment and some ribbon, and I'm good. And I do want to caution you, because this is one thing I often forget to do. I took my microfiber cloth and cleaned up the excess embellishment mousse that I had on my craft mat. I love the craft mat for protecting my surface, but I often forget to wipe off the ink or the other stuff I have there, and I get it all over my project, so be careful with that. So I'm pulling out, this is actually a sentiment, like I'm trying to decide which sentiment to use. That is another little, one of Altenew's little sets, and you know, I've got a couple big sets on the side. I love their sentiments, but I especially love this one I'm going to use because, and then I end up using this for a few other tags. I pulled out their Happy Holidays. This stamp set has so many different greetings in all different sizes, and I just love them. It's got a lot of little pieces that you can use for sentiments, and I'm going to try a couple things before I finally decide on one. So I finally settled on which sentiment I want to use, and I want to use the Merry Christmas. I just really like the font, and I want to emboss this in black embossing powder because I think it'll look really pretty. And I really love the Wow black embossing powder. It just has such a nice shine. So I'm using my Versamark ink, and I'm just stamping this in the bottom corner of this with my Misty, and you can see I stamped it twice. Oops, pardon my head there. I'm pulling out my black embossing powder, just shaking it on. I didn't even bother using the embossing buddy there. And I'm just, you know, getting rid of the excess, and I'm just going to heat set this. So you can see that I finished the sentiment, and I pulled out some old ribbon that I had from Stampin' Up, and I'm just stapling that on. I folded it in half, used my little craft stapler. I'm leaving the back white so I can write a note on it to the recipient, and that is my card, or my tag. That's going to complete my tag. That's a tag that took the longest, and all of that was inspired by getting that little stamp set in the mail from Altenew today. So let's move on to my next one. So for my next little tag, I want to use this sweet little Season's Greetings stamp set. Now again, this is a complete stamp set, and I'm going to use the Mountain Pine. I'm going to pair it with Crimson and Milk Chocolate. Milk Chocolate is a new color that Altenew just came out with. And I'm going to use the second largest tag die there, and I have just a little piece of white cardstock that's probably less than 3, it's probably like 2 3/4 by 5 inches or so, and I'm gonna stamp this pretty much like it is on the back of the card that came, like the little insert that came with the stamp set has a pretty little idea on the back, and they always come with a pretty quote also, by the way, on the back of those little stamp sets. I really like that. But I'm using that Milk Chocolate for the branch, and then I'm going to add the little berries, and it was a little, I'm just looking at the picture to see how are they supposed to go here. So I can't see at this point that there is a little hole where those brown dots are. There's actually a little tiny hole in the stamp image at those points, but I finally figure out which way it needs to be turned. And I could have used, you know, that little piece that comes on the stamp set, that clear piece, I could have used that to stamp the berries on it and then line them up, and then it'll just wipe off. I could have done that, but I inked them up, and that's crimson, and I'm going to ink it twice. This is the first time I've used this stamp set. This is one of their new release ones. It's so pretty. Isn't that crimson pretty with that milk chocolate color? And now I am busting out the mountain pine, my favorite color. I just love this color combination. So there's two different greenery pieces there, and I'm going to put those on, and I'm going to stamp those at the exact same time. And I'll probably end up doing those. Actually, I guess I only did those once. Nope, I'm doing it twice. Usually the first time I use a stamp set, I have to do it twice, and because you don't get complete coverage. And sometimes I stamp it on scrap paper first. But now I'm going to add the little Season's Greetings, and I love that mountain pine so much. I'm going to stamp it in that mountain pine. Like, oh no, milk chocolate, love that too. So I'm using the milk chocolate, and I'm not quite getting the bottom corner there, so I'm going to remove that magnet, because sometimes the magnets get in my way. And it stamps perfectly the third time, so for some reason I wasn't quite getting the edge. And I'm trying to decide, do I want to add some sheen, or what do I want to do here? Because I feel like it needs a little something more. So I'm going to take this milk chocolate, and I'm going to take the mountain pine and just put a little bit of the ink on my craft mat, and then I'm spritzing it with water with my distress sprayer, and then I'm pulling out a nice round brush. This is at number 10, so it's a good size big round brush, and it holds a lot of water. This is perfect for splattering. So this is how I do my splatters, and that number 10 round brush is by far my favorite brush to splatter with. Just make sure you wipe off the excess, because you know you can make a mess with that. And that actually showed through the back a little bit, so I'm going to take two different sizes of this tag, and I'm going to cut with the third largest size here. I'm going to pull up my mini blossom die cutter. That paper is about 3 inches wide or so, so that's perfect for the mini blossom die cutting machine. And you can see how handy this is. I didn't even get out of my chair. I just use a little washi tape to hold it down, and then I'm just going to run it through. And I only have to run it through once. Those plates have not warped. I've had them a year. I love this thing. So I'm going to use that same piece of washi tape, and I'm going to cut out a piece of patterned paper. So I'm pulling out from the other My Favorite Things Build-A-Tag, I'm pulling out one of those little round pieces to cover up the hole, to make a little pretty hole cover. I like this look. I like this little touch. If you don't have a die set, you can actually use a hole puncher and a small round circle punch to do the same thing. I did that in a video a long time ago. I'm just cutting down a piece of 6x6 patterned paper from Sunny Studios. This is from they had a fall set, like they had like 4 packages of fall colors, and I love them, and they are still beautiful at Christmas because they're just in that regal color family. They're deep, rich colors. So I'm just going to use a little piece of washi tape to hold each of those pieces down. So this is the next size larger of this tag, and again, you get that nice stitch detail on it, so it's pretty fun. And I'm just going to take and adhere that white stamped piece down with some Altenew tape runner, or glue adhesive, or permanent adhesive. They have all different names for it. So I'm putting that on top, and then I'm going to grab my hole puncher, and I've not had good luck with hole punchers. I haven't found one that works really well. So I pulled out my Crocodile. Didn't quite center it, but that's okay, because the ribbon will cover up that little thing. And this is why I like this little piece, because that hole doesn't look quite finished off, but you put a piece of a little, tag around the edge, and that actually looks finished off now. And at first I think I'm going to use baker's twine, but then I remember that I have a little collection of ribbons that I have gotten free from Ellen Hudson. Every time I place an order at Ellen Hudson, they send a little handmade, hand-colored tag and about a yard of ribbon or a meter of ribbon. And so I pulled out the red that I have. I have a variety of colors now. It's wonderful to have this little stash of ribbon. And it's the pretty satiny ribbon like this, and I think this is a great thing. And again, I'm just using my little craft stapler, which I love. Why did Stampin' Up! Stop making this? I'm looking at it to find out what company made this for Stampin' Up! Because I would totally buy one and endorse it. But Stampin' Up! Doesn't make this anymore, or they don't carry it anymore, which is a shame because it's a wonderful little thing to have on your craft table. So easy just to put a staple instead of trying to tie a knot all the time. So now I'm just cleaning up because I'm done with that tag and I'm ready to move on to my next one. And I'm super excited to use, for my next tag, another one of Altenews' new releases is called the Poinsettia pieces, or Poinsettia. I don't know how you like to pronounce it. I pronounce it Poinsettia. But this one doesn't have a sentiment in the set, but it's got a layered poinsettia, it's got some berries, it's got a couple different greenery pieces. So I'm just trying to decide what colors to use. So I pull out a couple of the inks that came in Altenews sells their inks in packages of 4 that layer together. So I pull out Ruby Red, thinking that that will layer nicely with the crimson. I want to use the crimson for the berries anyway. And I pull out the Shadow Creek because I need 2 greens, and then I've got my milk chocolate there for my branch, or for the end of the berries thing there. And, excuse me, I have a little grid paper that I've actually laminated that I like to stamp on. I find it's easy to clean off, and it's easy to line things up with also. So I'm just giving everything a good clean here before I move on, because I've got some ink smudges and I want to make sure they don't transfer to my project. I'm just using a baby wipe, and by the way, and I'm just cleaning the inside of my Misty. I know you need special cleaner for the outside, but I'm using my StazOn permanent ink cleaner there and just cleaning the inside of my Misty to get the permanent black ink off, because I use Altenews permanent black ink all the time. And that StazOn ink cleaner is at least 6 years old. That stuff is lasting me forever. Excuse me. Alright, so I'm looking at their sample on the back, and I like the sample on the back. So I may do something sort of like it, and I'm not sure, I'm going to start with the lighter of the 2 colors that I have out, and that happens to be the Ruby Red. This is a really pretty color. And I'm just showing you that if I haven't used this before because it's new, if you do the little Versamark thing, like I just did, ink it up with Versamark, wipe the Versamark off, and then stamp it, you get really nice coverage the first time. Or you can just stamp it twice and you'll be fine. So now I'm taking, there's a top layer that goes on top of this, and I'm gonna use that crimson because it's a darker color than the Ruby Red, and layer on top. So I just fussed with it until I found the way that it should be turned. And now I'm gonna put that on top, and I'm gonna be honest, didn't get enough contrast. And I was gonna toss that out and start over, and I realized I don't need to start over. I just need to pick a different color. So I put it back in, and since I always tuck everything into the corner, that's easy to do. So I pulled out a purple color and inked it up with that, and it looks so much nicer. And I think that's grapevine, by the way. And then I decide I want that centerpiece to be sparkly gold. So I'm going to pull out, pardon me, my Encore Sparkly Gold. Now I haven't used this stuff in a while, like a year. It's still beautiful, inking up beautifully. It's still beautiful. It's not dried out. Like that stuff is amazing. Yay, Encore. Like, what a good product. So now I'm going to stamp the greens, and I'm excited to stamp that pine one in that pine green in the mountain pine. So I just stick it on. I want to make a quick tag here, but I didn't do a good job here. I should have created a mask for my poinsettia, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull out the piece that's left over from my snowbank, and then I'm just kind of going to take the stamp and push it down on top there. There's enough ink left. I didn't clean it off. So there's enough ink left that I can just, get the image to show up on that extra 3M Post-it tape. And now I'm just cutting it out, and I'm going to put it down on top of that poinsettia. And it may not quite cover it. That's okay. I don't want huge stems. I want the stems to look like they were underneath the poinsettia. So I'm going to mask off the poinsettia. I just made a quick mask. I'll toss it out when I'm done. I'm going to put a second pine piece there, and then I'm going to pull out the leafier greens, and I'm going to pull out the Shadow Creek green, which is this one step lighter green. I'm going to stamp this 3 or 4 times. I'm just going to move it around where it feels right and just stamp it. And I'm not even cleaning off in between. So one thing you could do is put your little plastic piece from your stamp that down on top of your stamped image before you put it to your paper, and then that won't happen. But I'm not too fussy about where I'm putting them, so where I practice putting it is where it ends up, and I know that that's what I'm going to be doing. But if you are going to fuss with the exact placement, you want to put something down to protect your piece there. So now I'm stamping the little branch pieces that are going to go with the berries, and I stamped those in my milk chocolate color. And I'm just peeling these off without cleaning them and putting them right back on the stamp thing. This stamp package that they came on. And I'm using the crimson now for the berries. And this is just so quick. I've got this sort of detailed, colorful, there's lots of different colors here. There's 5 different colors here at least. And I like the way it looks. I'm happy with that. Now it just needs a greeting. And since there's not a greeting in this particular stamp set, I'm going to pull a greeting out of that Happy Holiday stamp set. And I should have done that first and then done this, but I was kind of anxious to get some sparkle on there. So I pulled out my Shimmer Mist and spritzed it a couple of times on there. This is my Sheer Shimmer Sparkle Spritz. This is from Imagine Crafts. I always shake it up really well and spritz it on and then wipe off the rest of my craft mat. Excuse me. And I'm letting it dry. And I might even hit this with the heat gun, but you can see the sparkle on there. Like every card and tag should have some sparkle. So I'm just going to decide now which sentiment I want to put on, and I really, really like the Merry and Bright from the Happy Holidays. So I'm pulling that out, and I'll just put it in my Misty, and I will take my embossing buddy and just wipe it over the top, because that kind of will take care of any problems should that not be completely dry, but that Shimmer Mist dries pretty quickly. So I'm using my Versamark and inking it up, and then I'm just going to add, I want black ink again, or black embossing powder. This Wow embossing powder just comes out so shiny. I just love how it looks. It's almost got a raised effect too. I just like that about it. And I'm going to go ahead and heat set this now. So the next step, of course, is to cut it out with one of the tag dies. So I pick one that actually fits on there. I'm going to give it a little washi tape to stick it down. Try to get it as straight as possible. And then I'm just going to run it through my Altenew Mini Blossom die cut. And you can see as I reach for this, I'm just reaching for this right next to me. This is on the shelf next to me. It is so convenient to have this little die cutter. And it has to be less than 3 inches wide. So for bigger dies, I would have to go to my larger Big Shot, but this is actually, this works out really well. And then for the last touch, I'm going to take that red ribbon I got from Ellen Hudson. And what a nice little thing. Again, another company that includes a little freebie every time they place an order. And I keep the little cards that come in there because they're pretty. It's always some little stamped card. So I got 3 quick cards there from 3 quick little stamp sets. And I've got 3 more to show you yet too. So just so you know, I could mass produce any of these. Had I done multiples of these, they would have been quick to do. So I've pulled out my little Misty again, and now I'm going to use 3 more of the little stamp sets. Now, actually, yes, 3 more I think I have. Excuse me. I've created these 3 already, pretty quick and easy. All of them would be easy to mass produce. If you just do each step multiple times and then move on to the next step of the stamp creation, it's pretty quick and easy to make. So I'm pulling out this Sweet Season, and you can see I've already stamped that once, but my camera died in the middle. So I'm going to show you how I did this. And I love this little candy cane. It's actually super fun, and I'm still using my MFT tags, and now I'm going to pull out the Sweet Season. So I'm going to start with the solid stamp, and again, the solid stamp is the bottom stamp. That is always done in a light color, so I'm bringing out Frosty Pink, which is one of the 4 inks in the same package as the Crimson. Now I'm pulling out there are 2 different striped ones. I'm pulling out the wider stripe, and you could use, again, if you want to make sure it was lined up perfectly, that little piece of plastic, just stamp on that and line it up to make sure it's perfect if you're a perfectionist. I'm not going to do that. I'm using the Crimson, and I'm stamping right on top of that. Isn't that pretty? That's pretty just like that. You could leave it just like that. But I'm going to take that second layer of stripes, and those little stripes fit in between the thicker stripes, and I'm going to pull out my Mountain Pine, and I'm going to stamp it again, and I love the way this looks. And it doesn't show up very well on the camera, but I just really like it. So now I'm using the Wishing You a Sweet Holiday Season, and since I have just a touch of green on there, I'm going to use the Mountain Pine to ink this up. But I'm going to add one little special touch to the Mountain Pine. I want it to really stand out, so I'm going to clean off my stamp here with a baby wipe, and I love these baby wipes. I actually get my baby wipes from Grove Collective, where I get a lot of cleaning products and other things, and I love that company if you have never checked it out. This is my Versamark, and I'm going to use my Versamark, and then I'm going to use clear embossing powder. And the clear embossing powder is another one of the colors that I have in a big tub. And again, I use my embossing powder so much more now because that was not messy at all. There was no putting it in a special tray or on a coffee filter or anything like that. Now when you add clear embossing powder, can you see how much brighter that comes out? And it also is super shiny. And I'm deciding that little candy cane needs a little sparkle. I contemplated using the bottom layer of the stamp set. I will spit this out eventually, and just stamping in Versamark over the top and then using clear embossing powder on that, but I have a different idea I'm going to use to give the candy cane a little sparkle. So I'm going to cut this out again with my Altenew Mini Blossom die cutter, and that would complete the tag. Doesn't that stitch detail just finish it off? Like, that's just wonderful. I could spritz it again with my shimmer mist and, you know, add some ribbon and call it a day. But one little thing I want to do is in this month's My Monthly Hero kit, I got this really pretty jelly roll sparkle pen. It's like silver sparkle, and it's the most amazing thing. Who knew there was a pen like this? I didn't know this. And I'll tip it. If I tip it, can you see that? That came from the pen. I love this. So that's going to complete my card. All I have to do now is add that ribbon. And you can see this was like a yard or a meter, I'm not sure, about a yard or a meter of red ribbon, and that's it. I stapled it on there. I just folded it in half and stapled it on there, and that's my tag. Excuse me. Okay, so now I'm pulling out this is called the Mini Christmas. This is a new release from Altenew, and I'm going to do this in my Crimson and my Mountain Pine. I think that's a really pretty combination, but I definitely want that Merry Christmas done in that black embossing powder. I just really like it. And I'm actually going to do the sentiment first and then put the other stuff around it. So I'm setting this up in my Mini Misty, and again with the Versamark, inking that up. I'm going to ink this up a couple times with my Versamark. Actually, no, I decided it's covered well enough. Probably should have done it twice in hindsight. Now this time I did put a little coffee filter behind there, even though I don't really need it, just in case I get klutzy, because it happens. Okay, and I do have a little bare spot, which I try to just cover up, but I clearly did not get enough Versamark on there. I do have a Versamark pen, so after I heat emboss it, I could use the Versamark pen and fix that, or I could just fix it with a black marker, or I can just leave it like it is, which is what I'm going to do. This is just a Christmas tag. Only my family is going to see this, and you guys. And it's, you know, so it's not like something that I'm going to enter in a challenge or anything, so I'm not too fussy. So now I'm pulling out the berries and the holly leaf, and I'm going to stamp the berries a couple of times, and I'm pulling out one of my Catherine Pooler cute little clear blocks. I love these. This is another one of those things that every time I pull out I say, I love this. Like, what a happy purchase. And I didn't quite get it all, and I lined that up beautifully and stamped over the top without a Misty. So I'm going to stamp like 2 or 3 of these. And by the way, that was Crimson ink. And all these inks are Altenew inks with the exception of the Versamark. And I'm using the Mountain Pine for the leaves. And I'm just going to stamp like 3 leaves on each side. And cut it out with my die cut machine and add my ribbon. And before I do that, I'm taking my white gel pen and I'm just going over where those white spots would be, and I really like that little touch. I still feel like it needs something, but I'm going to put that aside because I want that gel pen. I probably should have waited till I die cut it to put that gel pen on, but I want that gel pen to dry, so I'm going to do that. So I have to apologize, my camera is just really not working very well, and it missed taping the little cabin one, and that little cabin one is actually called Winter Cottage. I just stamped that in Altenew permanent black ink, and then I used the crimson to stamp a little sentiment from the Happy Holidays stamp set that I've got the Merry and Bright from. And now I'm adding my Distress, this is Squeezed Lemonade, and I'm putting some of that in the window so it looks like there's a light on. And I'm just using my Nuvo like Aqua Shimmer pen and adding some snow details. Like this is glitter. Now on the little cabin, the little cottage one, that was permanent ink, so I didn't have to be that careful. But I wanted to put this on top of my holly leaves. That is dye ink, so I have to be careful not to get too much on there or that dye ink will actually bleed. So now I'm just adding some more of that Ellen Hudson red ribbon. And I'm just stapling it on. I'm not doing anything fancy here because, again, December 22nd, get her done. So you can see these little tiny stamp sets make the most amazing projects. And you could easily mass produce these. I just made one of each, but you could easily mass produce any one of these cards. And you can use techniques with them. You can combine them in different ways. Imagine making little backgrounds with some of these things, like, or making a cluster of the poinsettias, or the berries on the branches, or the candy canes, or those pine trees. Just amazing. So that's going to complete my tag making, just to give you some ideas and to share with you that you can actually buy a little stamp set that can go a really long way, or that you can be really creative with these little stamp sets. Like this cottage, for example, I have stamped in dye ink and watercolored. That pine tree is amazing. I mean, imagine the Christmas scenes that you can make with that, and that snowy background, which, by the way, that snowy background looks really pretty with that Christmas cottage. And the sentiment there came from the Happy Holidays stamp set from Altenew, so you can see that mostly I used the little 6 little stamp sets there, and then pulled a couple sentiments from the Happy Holidays stamp set. So there's just so much you can do. Like, you can make a whole background of just candy canes, like they show on the back of this card, that this insert that came with the stamp set. So thank you so much for watching. Stop by my blog at stampingandperfection.com. I'll include the links to these products below. And make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And share this video with your friends. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful holiday season.